And now, Pro Wrestling and Being a Good Brother present the Brothers in Kayfabe. And we are live here at the Brothers in Kayfabe studios. I am your aforementioned brother in Kayfabe, along with the man with the plan,
Mr. Wrestling, Landon Bumgarner, in a little bit of a different location. I'm not getting back from Mania, but the madness that is my life continues to burrow through. So I am out of the studio today. I do have my studio equipment with me, though. So, yeah, Jake, it's been a wild, wild week, hasn't it?
Oh, you're telling me, dude. You're telling me. Yeah, we just got back from Dallas, Texas yesterday. What a wild weekend. Started Friday for me. Heading down there. Just gotta, for those listening and not watching live, that was the sound of a crisp, smooth can of Steve Austin Broken Skull American Lager opening up. But yeah, we just got back from Dallas. We wanted to do some big things at WrestleMania. But travel permitting and time constraints, we just weren't able to do it. So that is why we are live tonight on BIK in your house. Landon, it was a great weekend for me. How did your weekend go? Let's start there.
I got to be honest, it was just super, super chaotic, but it was great because there was a lot of wrestling. There's a lot of wrestling related content. It was, I told you earlier today, it was a fun weekend. Crazy, but fun. Obviously, I didn't have to travel anywhere near as much as you, but this, pulling back the kayfabe curtain a little bit, these next 2 weeks are the busiest I have in the entire calendar year. So it's going to be crazy, but thank goodness for wrestling.
We are on the road to Easter, and as everyone knows, Easter time is very, very big for workers at the church, pastors and everything. And most people know Landon does work at a church. He is an associate
I work
pastor.
with Deacon Batista as well as Reverend Devon.
There you go. There it is.
And the sinister minister.
The sinister minister himself. But so we, it's a big, long weekend of work. So, or couple weeks of work, excuse me. But man, you're gonna do great. You make it through every week. Sorry, I'm down here sharing this video to everybody.
I'm Vince McMahon when it comes to the show must go on.
I will sleep
2 hours.
Must go on.
And then I will send Pat McAfee a video of me squatting 1,000 pounds just 2 days before having an impromptu match at WrestleMania.
Man, so you're just bringing it right to night 2. We're not even getting into night 1 yet.
Well, did you see the video? I think it was the day before Mania night 1, I think. Or no, it was the day after. It was Monday, I think. Pat McAfee uploaded part of his show, and I guess Vince texted him a clip like the day before WrestleMania, And it was like, you just miss Austin Theory squat 1,000 pounds. And you know what? Watch this. And then Vince McMahon just casually squats 1,000 pounds at 76 years old. And it's like,
That's a
is that not
70
the
year old
dream?
man.
Yeah.
Like Amanda had never seen McMahon without his shirt on, and she was like, "He's 76 and he looks that way." I was like, "Yeah, you should have seen him 10 years ago." Like,
Yeah.
I know Vince has always been jacked.
Like
Like,
legit in his 50s and in his 60s was on the cover of Muscle and Fitness, which is
right,
just insane.
right.
Like who does that?
Vince McMahon does.
Vince McMahon does.
The man who doesn't sleep.
That's why he's gonna
Um,
live well over 100. But Jake, how was it going to the showcase of the Immortals? How was it going to the granddaddy of them all? How was it going to the most stupendous 2-night event in sports entertainment?
it was fantastic. I've never been to one before. I've always
Was this
dreamed
your
of
first
going.
pay-per-view?
This was my first pay-per-view. My first actual pay-per-view. I mean, I went to an AEW show and it was a special like event taping because it was like Fighter Fest. Um it was Fighter Fest. And but I don't really count that as a pay-per-view because it was on live TV. But um, it was a hell of a night, hell of a 2 nights, a hell of a weekend. This thing is such an amazing beast. WrestleMania week. It used to be WrestleMania weekend, and it's just slowly morphed into an entire week where I think you could have gone to wrestling every day for 24 hours straight if you wanted to.
Which isn't a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, but like, gotta sleep sometime. Like,
Yeah. What do you
but
mean, pal?
I'll never die. There was a joke going around that the reason Vince has been so interested in Austin Theory is that he's keeping a close eye on his future host body.
I mean, honestly,
He's just going to transfer his consciousness over there at a certain point. Uh, but no, it was my first pay per view ever, and what a way to have your first pay per view. It was my wife's first pay per view, and as we announced the other day, my wife is pregnant with a little girl, Moxley Jane, and so technically, her first WrestleMania was this weekend. So,
and I don't know. I'm just going to be real. I don't know when or if this WrestleMania will be topped.
it was a hell of a WrestleMania. I will say that. And I'm not just saying that because I was there, but like, gosh, it was hard. It was hard to beat, man. It was really hard to beat. It was a it was a hell of a show. I hear a lot of people giving shit about it, talking crap, but
But that's wrestling fans for you. You can't wrestling fans and Star Wars fans, you can't like what you like.
no, absolutely not. And but I'm glad. I'm glad we went. It was very iffy on if we were going to be able to go, but thanks to some good brothers, want to give a shout out to Joe Dumas and Shawnee Caulfield. You're both good brothers. I was trying to tag everybody that helped out this weekend. But without these guys, we wouldn't have been able to go. And so I want to thank them for helping us get there. And it it was a 5-star classic all weekend long. Um, was the wrestling the most amazing wrestling I've ever seen in my life? No, but there was a majesty to the room. We're in a 78,000 seat uh, arena, And at moments you could hear a pin drop. At moments you couldn't hear the pumping music. You couldn't hear the pyro. It's something that every wrestling fan has to experience. It was amazing.
It's like going to the Super Bowl. Are you going to see the
Right.
greatest football game? Probably not. Are you going to see football and the way it was meant to be seen? Yeah. You go to a giant arena concert, let's say Metallica or Kiss,
Right.
like some gigantic band like that. You're going to go, they're going to play all the hits in this giant arena. Is it going to be, you know, the most technically sound? Probably not, because they're there to do what they know works, but you're going to enjoy it a lot more because you're seeing it in full display of how it was meant to be enjoyed. I think of it like this. It's like the difference between watching a movie on your phone
Yeah,
versus watching a movie in the theater with surround sound. It
exactly.
just hits completely different. And it's one of those, I'm like, every wrestling product is different. It's like WWE, like no one does WWE better than WWE.
No,
And obviously they're a very unique product, but it's like, man, like it's just insane.
and you're not there have been, yes, but you're not going to WWE for a 5-star classic. You're going to be entertained.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we've fallen off. And I believe, WWE has fallen off a little bit. They're getting to be a little bit more hokey and more early 90s era. And, that wasn't exactly the best time in wrestling, but there was still 158,000 tickets sold this weekend.
Which is, let's put that into perspective. I'll get into this later when we actually break down the show. Spent some time with a ghost this weekend, and one of the things this ghost and I were discussing was, like AEW, their core is not to put on the most entertaining show; it's to put on a wrestling show.
Right.
And there is a difference between, and this is no knock on them, there's a difference between them selling out a 10,000 seat arena versus WWE selling out a 70,000 seat arena, or even for SummerSlam a 50,000 seat arena.
Right.
It makes a difference. I hope AEW gets to that point to where they can run these huge outdoor stadiums and have, 50,000 plus people.
Right.
Because when you get that many people together, like you can't help but just have like this camaraderie, like this unity of, hey, like we're part of something special because there's so many of us here.
Yeah.
It's, it's one of those things. It's the difference between Walmart and Target. You can't say one's better than the other because even though they're similar, they're both very different in the way that they're structured.
Yeah.
And it's like there's times when you need to go to Walmart, but there's times where you would rather go to Target.
Right.
And so it's like it
Both are
blows my
valid
mind.
places to shop.
Yeah, it blows my mind that people left this weekend like disgruntled and throwing fits of like that was literally the most boring, like miserable thing. It's like if that was your take from this weekend, I wouldn't say you enjoy wrestling or sports entertainment.
Right.
I think you like something. I think you like gifts on Twitter and nothing else. But hey, like if that's what you like it. That
Well,
doesn't mean you have to rain on other people's parades.
and like I've said privately, there were things that I didn't like. Um, but it was far outweighed by what I loved.
Right.
And, we can't let the bad um the bad plays. Let's break it down to a football game. You can't let the bad plays ruin your experience of being there or
Yeah.
watching the game. I can be mad all day long about Matt Stafford throwing a pick in the Super Bowl, but they won the Super Bowl and they played their ass off.
Yeah.
The same goes to wrestling. You can be mad, you can be upset that, maybe the main event of night 2 didn't live up to expectations, but it was far outweighed by the rest of the show, you
Yeah.
know. And
It's
go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's one of those things, one of the longest reigning arguments in wrestling is, the well, do different spots on the card actually have a purpose, or the people who is like, I don't care that, I'm mid card. I'm gonna put on such a great match that the main event guys are gonna have to try and top it. I get and understand that, and I think there's times where that's appropriate, but also it's like you can't have every match be the most entertaining, the most spectacular, the most sound technically match there is, because
Right.
then all of a sudden nothing means everything. It's like I look at it like this, like I love the fact that Bryan Danielson has had 2 time limit draws in AEW so far. Like that's a cool thing. If that happens with every opponent he wrestles, then it goes from him and his opponent being that good to, well, he's really not that good because all these guys are being able to survive him. Same way that, you can't have every match on the card be a ladder match, because then the ladder match isn't exciting by the end of the night.
Speaking of everyone's opinion, please comment your opinion. Let's talk about it. Because we want to talk to you guys. But yeah, it's like I said, we're not going to break down it right now, but like there were moments where I didn't like what they put out there, but it did not change my love for the event, and it's dude, there are moments that I enjoyed more than this event, but this event was from top to bottom at least top 5, probably top 3 for me.
Yeah, I would agree. And I told you this, and I don't have a problem saying it publicly. I thought this was easily the best. I think after going back and rewatching it down the line, we'll see where it ranks, but easily the best we've had, I would say, since 28 or 29 with The Rock returning. And it's not that the other Manias, 30 and beyond haven't had great moments or even great matches, but as far as like top to bottom, even though it was 2 nights, when's the last time we've had a Mania this entertaining and this stacked? Whether it was just moments, which like let's be real, like the purpose of WrestleMania is to create a moment.
Right.
Nobody's gonna, unless you're like me and you super analyze matches, you're not gonna remember move for move, you know, Rey Mysterio winning the world title, but you're gonna remember Rey Mysterio winning the world title.
Right.
You're not gonna remember move for move Undertaker versus Shawn. You're just gonna remember that I genuinely don't know who's going to win because they're hitting him with everything they have and it's still not enough. It would like, I just remember it. I told you this, Jake, like it just felt so surreal watching everything that we were watching. Cause it was kind of like, man, like, why is it as good as it is? Like it's not supposed to be this good. I'm not supposed to enjoy watching WrestleMania as much as I'm enjoying watching WrestleMania.
Exactly. And as Facebook user said here, I'm going to try to figure out who commented that. It was an unforgettable night, and there was moments during both nights that just stole the show and we will remember forever. Whoever's commenting, please say your name so that we can get your props to you. Uh, we'll talk about Roman in a second. I feel like Roman has gotten his big moments over and over at Mania, but we'll talk about it.
It's we talked about this on the Go Home show that if you were to watch Mania 1,
thank you,
or
David.
not Mania, if you were to watch one wrestling show a year, Mania is the one to watch. And I really, really hope, and I know of some very casual fans that they went out of their way to watch this Mania, to watch this show, just because.
We got a run in from Mrs. Igante.
It's just one of those things. Like one of the coolest thing. My friend Brent, he tells me stories all the time. He's probably 20 years older than me, maybe. Brent, if you're not that much older than me, I apologize. But he talks about like when he was in college, during the heat of the Monday Night Wars, him and his buddies, they would go to baseball practice, get done, and then they would split up into two groups. One would watch Raw, one would watch Nitro, and they would both tape. And then the next night, those groups would swap tapes.
Yeah.
And watch it. And I saw him, like, after WrestleMania, he commented about like how much he enjoyed it. And it's like, that makes my heart feel good.
We agree, Tad.
I 100% agree. Like, man, like that's entertainment. And it has such an impact. Like, if they were to go in there and it's like, man, like, I don't want to see Johnny Knoxville do the LaBelle lock, and I don't want to see Johnny Knoxville and Sami Zayn put on a clinic. Like, I want to watch Johnny Knoxville, use a stun gun and use a giant mouse trap. You want to see
Johnny Knoxville do Johnny Knoxville things.
Yeah, it's it's one of those things. It's like, it's kind of like, let's say you go to a Paul McCartney concert. You want to hear Paul McCartney play his hits, and you want to hear him play Wings songs and Beatles songs. You don't want to go there and listen to him be like, oh, like, hey, here's some really abstract stuff that I've been doing. It's like, hey, shut up. Like, I paid to hear you say, hey, Jude, like, you owe me that.
Right. You go to see, when you go see the Stones, you want to hear Paint It Black. You want to hear Satisfaction. You want to hear all of those. Thank you, David. Wangs. So, and like, we'll talk about some of the greatest hits things, because like there were some points in the nights that worked correctly the way we needed it to be, but there were some things that it was like, I'm ready for y'all to do something new. But like I said, we'll get to that. Let's go ahead and start, because I feel like we can't really talk much more about it without just getting into the matches themselves. Let's talk about night one. And we're gonna have to be brief for a lot of things, but the moments that we really enjoyed, we'll talk about. It started off strong. It was a pretty good tag match with the Usos and Shinsuke and Boogs. It seems like that match ended not how it was supposed to end.
No, it has become clear that Rick Boogs suffered a legitimate injury, where the tendon connecting his quad to his patella, some of those tendons have snapped and are no longer in the place that they're supposed to be. He like legitimately had to be carried out, like not even allowed to walk one-legged on his own, had to be carried out.
Right.
Which is just crushing. Like, it's no secret that I'm a big fan of the Boogs. R.I.P. Triple J, Jimmy Jackson.
All members of the Brothers in Kayfabe proper are big fans of the Boogs.
Like
So.
it was so like we've waited so long since that single appearance on NXT,
right,
for him to do something, and just out of the blue, finally, Triple H is away, and Rick Boogs gets called up to the main roster, gets put with Shinsuke of all people, and gets to do super entertaining stuff. I agree.
Boogs is the man, David.
And so
Boogs is the man.
It's just heartbreaking to see him not only within a year of him being on TV, but him to get his first Mania, but also to get a tag title match at Mania with people like the Usos and with Shinsuke as his partner. Like, it's just such a great thing, but it's so heartbreaking that it ended like that. My hope is, in the past, sometimes you are judged for your injuries, not because you got hurt and it's your fault, but because, like, hey, well, last time we invested all this money and did all this for you and you got hurt.
Right.
And so I really hope that doesn't happen. Time will tell. But like literally anything Boogs does, like, is just there you go.
And like we said, we all love Boogs. He's one of our guys. He's one of the guys that we love. But we're worried. I'm worried. I know that he might suffer the Finn Balor problem, and that's where they invest all this money in him, and he gets hurt. Right as he gets the big opportunity to run with the ball, and well, pal, we're done here. So you don't want to, you hate to see it, but only time will tell what's going to happen. The dude's massively over. He got a huge pop. Sign the mics harder. Farmer to take Boog's place. Love it. I'll have to go find out who that was that commented that. But
they did that was me. So they like what's crazy is just like moments, or not moments before, like 2 days before Mania starts, all of a sudden, like, I just start seeing all these like ads of Boogs and Shinsuke with the Mike's Harder Farmer training. And then what do they do at WrestleMania? Come out in full Steiner Brothers Mike's Harder gear. I love it. I love product placement.
And the Farmer was in the stands.
Yeah, like the only thing that would have been better is if he would have had like a super beat up Chevy and driven it to the ring with Boogs and Shinsuke in the back with like some hay.
As they said whenever AEW was pushing Suicide Squad, in a perfect moment of corporate synergy.
Exactly.
It was great. The next match, it was one that I didn't really pay that much attention to. Congrats on the Usos, though, for being on the top of their game. They're so good, and they know their character. And thank you, David. Thank you, David. That would have been fantastic.
Like if he has the pitchfork and he's just sitting there. Dude,
the
Usos are money.
They're legitimately one of the best tag teams on the planet.
Like, I'll be honest, like, I couldn't stand them when they first came up because they're just like, they were Rocky Maivia knockoffs. It's like, oh,
they
cool.
Were generic Samoan wrestlers.
Yeah, we've got Samoans doing a Samoan chant and they're yelling to hopefully get the crowd hyped up. But like they're bad guys. They get DUIs all the time. So like
they're over like Rover with me.
Hey, but, I'll say it, like, as much as I joke about, oh, cool, we're getting the New Day versus the Usos again, like their Hell in the Cell match from like 2019, 2018. That was brutal back in
Yeah.
the Uso penitentiary days, and then they actually went to jail and wasn't funny. But I
The
digress.
the next match, I snooze anytime Happy Corbin is on my television. I just the best part that Corbin ever played was whenever he was down on his luck. Sad Corbin, I guess is what we'd call him now. Whenever he was broke, and I mean, he was just playing that character so good. And what made me sad about that was seeing that version of him in the build-up videos. So it was like, okay, well, like we see this guy the way I want to see him right now. But
Yeah.
he's over as a heel. He gets the reaction. I understand why he's pushed. He's great at what he does. He's just
I
not for
just,
me.
yeah, I wish they would do more because I don't think they've tapped into the potential or utilizing him the way he could be. Like, here's something I would like, you know, have Happy Corbin like buy another wrestler's house
Right.
and be like, oh, like, sorry. I mean, maybe if you're as rich as me, like, you could buy your house back.
Have
Like,
him get a manservant.
yeah, exactly. Like, have him, like, there's so much for $1 Million Man that you could use for him instead of like, he's just happy. Like, like what his Instagram is what his character should be in real life, to where like,
Yeah.
just go to like backstage vignettes of him eating $300 tomahawk steaks and
Right.
smoking $100 cigars, and it's just like, hey, you got a match? He's like, I will in a little bit.
Now, it was confirmed that both him and Drew were supposed to have special entrances. Apparently, they had real tough timing issues on the first night, which seemed really weird because, like, nothing was really too long at the beginning. I mean, the
Yeah,
longest match through the first three was 11 minutes, and the other ones were under that. And the Usos match, I think, went short, actually,
yeah,
because they were setting up something bigger there. But Drew wins. We all knew Drew was probably going to win because he's the big star and he sells cups and action
yeah.
figures, and I really like Drew. But anytime I see Corbin, it's a bathroom break time for me.
It's like that. There's just no interest in that, in that feud at all. Um, it's just one of those things where it's like, you know, it's hard. Like, I get like Drew's the guy like selling merch to kids, and you need him on that card. I don't know if he's main event world champion ready anymore right now. I think it would take some like very
Yeah.
very, very like focus works to get him in. Drew did have a floppy sword. It's just one of
Thank you,
those
Miguel.
things to where he just like, he doesn't feel like as big of a deal as he should be.
Yeah, and he carried the company through tough times,
Yeah.
through COVID, and we all appreciate his run. He had a great main event push, but he was pushed at a point where it was unfortunately, that time, and it's kind of, we don't really know what his reaction would have been going forward, because as you have said constantly, that he was the most over person in the building at Royal Rumble in
Yeah.
2020. And imagine that pop that he would have gotten at Mania beating Brock.
Yeah. It's like, it's the most unfortunate but most like specific case of wrong place, wrong time for him. And sadly that's just part of life is, you know, you don't, yeah. I agree. Like, he's no longer a top draw, and it's not because of anything he's done. It's just because, like, hey, his, the flame was white hot. It's just there weren't the people there for that flame to spread and to continue.
Make the
It's
star.
yeah, because you can't be a star without the crowd.
And unfortunately, during the COVID era, a lot of people just tuned off.
Yeah,
Because the crowd is such an important thing, and that's so evident at WrestleMania. Like
yeah,
this weekend, it was so evident. It felt like WrestleMania again. It hasn't felt like
exactly.
WrestleMania in 2 years.
Yeah, and that's such a vital thing. Like that goes to show you. I've said it so many times, and it's not to be negative. It's not to harp on anybody or anything, but it's like emotion over motion every time. Like you can do the greatest moves in the world, but if they get no reaction, then they serve no purpose. You could do the greatest thing, and if it's a room of 100,000 people and dead silence, you know, then you've failed at what you've done versus, like you think of legendary moments to where it's like, oh my gosh, like Edge just speared Jeff Hardy off a ladder. We've never seen anything like that
Right.
before. You
Right.
know, you see Drew McIntyre kick out of the deep six for the first time and everyone loses their mind, or,
Right.
just stuff like that. And, it is what it is, but, hopefully one day Drew gets his momentum back, gets another opportunity, and is able to take the ball and run with it. But yeah, kind of a slow start to Mania, but they did have the benefit of like, oh, it's Mania, so there's naturally a little more excitement with it.
So next we move into probably besides the main event, probably my 3 favorite matches of the night. They really built this middle part of the card up great. The Miz and Logan Paul versus Rey Mysterio and Dominic. This was my planned bathroom match. I will not lie. This was my plan. And then what saved it for me was Logan Paul posting a picture of his ring gear Monday or Saturday morning. And Tad, we 100% agree. I just, I sleep on the Miz a lot. And it's because he's such a good heel. I don't care for him. And it's just like this match was the perfect storm. Logan looked like he had done this for years. He was completely unfazed. The guy could join wrestling full time tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I've said this before, but we have to appreciate the fact that we are in probably the greatest celebrity guest era in wrestling history as far as in-ring work.
Oh, easily. And that's not to say, when we say that, it's not like, oh my gosh, like I want to see these guys go toe to toe. It's like, hey, it doesn't look like crap anymore.
Nobody had big expectations for Bad Bunny, for Johnny Knoxville, for Logan Paul.
And they've blown
They
them all out of the water.
delivered.
Yeah, which is insane. Gone are the days of celebrities hit a really crappy clothesline where, their arm is way out here and they just loosely like hit him in the middle of the chest and do a really crappy scoop slam. It's like, oh, like kayfabe wise, it looks like they're actually training,
right?
And they're going to try and beat these people at their craft. Like, I never thought I would say this because I've hated Logan and Jake Paul since the Vine days, but it's like they were so great in what they do. They're doing, I would say this, like what made Conor McGregor famous by running his mouth, like they're doing it better because I would agree they've revitalized boxing. They've filled in that gap. And
you tune in to see them get their ass kicked, but they never get it kicked.
Exactly. And it's like, okay, well, we got to get someone else in here to do it.
Thank
and
you,
you
Miguel.
get so mad. And like, it's Can I share my favorite moment of that match?
Go right ahead. That's what we're here for.
Logan Paul hitting the 3 amigos.
Oh my gosh.
And then he goes to the top rope and he starts shaking his shoulders like
Let's
I
talk about the heat in that building.
like selfishly, this is me. Like, it's nothing against Ray. It's because I'm team Randy Orton all day. So like I'll always cheer against Ray because we stand Randy Orton in this house. But like I was smiling ear to ear because I was like, what a better way for Logan Paul to win than beating legendary Rey Mysterio with his best friend's moves.
Exactly.
And like,
With his son's dad's moves.
yeah, like I would love, love like the tears and the amount of tweets of this is the exact reason why I never watched WWE. And it's like, my brother in Christ, like you just got worked. Like it was beautiful,
And
beautiful,
then we
beautiful,
have the
beautiful.
turn at the end.
Yeah, which I gotta admit, I didn't see coming. I thought like, this is perfect.
Well, it goes back to the Miz, he believes he is the biggest star everywhere. So whether he turned babyface or not in that move, it fit his character because Logan was getting more attention than him.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't he turn on the guy?
That's why Logan Paul is now going to turn face and he's going to team with the
Exactly.
Mysterios.
Exactly. So great match. If I was giving it a rating, it would be 3.5 stars. It's great.
It had no business being as good as it was.
No, like I said, this was the bathroom match for me. And yet here I am talking about it as one of my favorite points of the night. The next match was probably the best match on the card for the night. It was very close by the one that followed, but I would say this was my favorite actual match. Not talking about my moment, because there was a moment on this card that beat that for me, but Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch put on a fantastic match. Bianca has the confidence of someone beyond her years, and me and my wife are now both Bianca Belair fans. I I am the same age as Bianca, and I don't have the confidence that lady does.
I was I was not that big of a fan of Bianca Belair in NXT, but
Yeah,
since
I didn't understand her in NXT.
it's like, oh cool, like she's the girl that just kind of like like
Yeah,
it's just one of those things to where I would agree. Like it's one of those things where it's like she is organically and naturally coming into the role of that baby face that people can get behind. And
the
it's
role
not,
model.
yeah, it's not this cheesy over the top, like, the we joke about it a lot, the generic like indie speech of like, I'm just honored to be here, or like, I want the opportunity to face the best people in the world. She's living a dream and she shares that, but she shares it in a way where it's not like, wow, like I'm just so lucky to be here. It's like, I'm here and I'm gonna prove why I deserve to be here.
She's here and she's a star.
Yeah.
She
And that's
comes across as a superstar.
it's the different, it's the female version of Roman with his heel turn, to where it's like, cool, they've been pushing you as a star, but now you're believable as a star. And
The
it's
light
Matt,
turned on.
yeah, and like she's going to be here forever, which is good because I've voiced it several times, like the 4 horsewomen of NXT. It's like, man, like burnout, overplayed. It's like I'd be cool if Becky and Charlotte and Sasha went away for a really, really long time, just because
Right.
how many more times can they be put in the same slots? Like, I fully expect Mania next year them to be in the title pictures.
Right.
And that's not a bad thing if they're the right people to be there, but it's like, okay, but what are we doing to build more stars so that we can sell more tickets to more events instead of like, hey, we just got to try and milk this same feud as long as we can.
Yeah, I'm going to put this out there. Bianca will main event WrestleMania again. She main evented it last year with Sasha. She will main event it again. And she may become the first woman to main event 2 WrestleManias. But
Yeah.
she is that mega star that they need. She fills all the boxes. She's a star. She is a mega star. And the amount of Bianca merch we saw on young girls in the entire stadium, it's what wrestling needs.
Yeah.
She is the type of person that wrestling needs badly.
Yeah. You need more people like that. And here's where you get into the divisive stuff of, fans and what they like, because you're going to have the people who like, this is stupid. Like, they're just there to like pander to the kids and sell merchandise. And it's like, yeah, because that's how
Wrestling is.
Yeah, like you get them started as a child, you have them for the rest of their life and you pass it down. But it's like you look at any other sports, it's like, why did people look up to Michael Jordan? Because he was the best, like he was charismatic, like you couldn't help but be hooked on him and want to be like him.
He was the best. He was a family man. He was, beyond his shortcomings, he was someone that could be looked up to. It's
And
the
I took
same
that
goes
personally.
and I took that personally. Exactly. The guy had a fire that every time you saw him, you saw that fire. I see that same thing with Bianca.
Yeah, and you need more stars that not you have plenty that say that, but to have someone where you see that in them and you believe it when they say it, that makes all the difference.
They showed a picture of Bianca from last year, and she's crying. She won her first title at Mania. Big moment, but you could see the lights weren't fully on yet. They showed that same moment from this year's WrestleMania and the confidence on that
Oh,
woman's
yeah.
face. It's
Night and
what
day different.
it's what that division needs. It's that strong baby face that is new, that I'm sure a lot of people are going to be mad about in a few years, because knowing WWE, they will overuse her, but I am okay with someone like that on top.
Yeah. You need that fresh blood, you need that fresh, tool to use in your tool chest.
Right.
It's just something that needs to happen, because you're only as good as you sell. And
Right.
if you're not selling the merch you need to be, if people aren't paying to come see you specifically, like, then you're not going to be on top.
There's a reason that match was put where it was, is because it was a hot match and the crowd was going nuts.
Yeah.
And we all know Becky is great in the ring. She's great. But it is time for her to step aside and go back to the mid card of the women for a little while.
Yeah. And that's not a bad thing, because you can be, not everyone gets to be on top.
Guess what? Bianca went to the back of the line.
Yeah.
So, that's what I have to say about that match. It's a great match. It's probably one of my favorite women's matches in WWE in a long time. The next match, probably my most anticipated match going in, not knowing that another match would take place. But go ahead.
Mahon.
Listen, So we've been teased that it was Cody Rhodes, and then we were teased that it wasn't Cody Rhodes, and then we were teased.
Adrenaline in my soul. Monday night, here comes Veer Mahan. Like,
My favorite was adrenaline in my soul. Where the F is Cody Rhodes?
well, he's playing pretend with his friends and all friends wrestling, but that's someone else's podcast. That's not ours.
So Seth freaking Rollins enters the ring, and that is the only time I will be referring to him as such because it
Gross.
is the dumbest middle name they've ever given someone. I love that they went through that big stage of shortening everyone's names, and now they're like, oh, we got to make them longer. They got to use their nickname as a middle name.
This is why you can't have 30 people on a creative team.
Right.
This is why, in a perfect Vince McMahon world, there should be some kind of a physical competition between the creative writers.
The amount of times I've heard Seth freaking Rollins makes me want to puke. I love Seth. He is a great worker. The dude is a superstar. But like the way they build him up is just the freaking is it's the worst. It is the worst part of that character. So he comes out and well, David, we're all entitled to our opinion, and we know you don't like smaller guys. So hey, it's
I will
we
I will
understand.
say this, like I don't know when it started or where it started, but with Seth, like I've lost almost all interest in him just because it seems like he was on such a sharp trajectory.
Yeah.
And then it kind of like
And then it
I
hit a
don't
wall.
yeah, it like he seems very like he's still just as talented as he was. Yeah, he switched gimmicks, but he feels very, and I don't mean this in a bad way. It's similar to like a Becky. Like it feels very, very mid card to me now. Like
Yeah, we agree, David. I mean,
it's he's essentially the heel version of Drew McIntyre at this point. It's like I wouldn't be surprised if they put in either one of those guys in a title picture, either Drew or Seth. But that's not who should be there, if that makes sense. And that's not to hate on him. It's just like, show me why you should be, in the main event again.
Seth is out there because he's going to make them look like $1 million.
Yeah. And he's doing his job perfect. That's, I can't stress this enough. Like, it's not a bad thing to be lower on the card or the mid card because you've guys like Roddy Piper, like Randy Savage, like Scott Hall, who weren't always the main event, weren't always world champion. Some of them never, but they had their spot on the card and they were a special attraction. I think Seth could be that, and I think he's doing right now as a heel, he's doing that part. I don't know. Him and Becky, it just kind of seems like they're playing the same gimmick.
Yeah.
But it's
definitely.
It's not getting over like it should, but they're heels, so they shouldn't be trying to get over. So maybe they are doing it right. But
they are doing it
Jake,
right. I mean, so
continue because I know for you, this was a very, very special match.
So even, going into the night, you just didn't know what it was going to be. Like there had been no indication beyond the rumors and innuendo and like the lights go out. And I'd even gone into the building that night going, Cody's not going to be here tonight. They're going to bring out, I was like, the only possible person that they can get away with at this point would be Taker. They'll roll Taker out. He'll wrestle a 5-minute match and it'll be done, or even shorter than that.
Which wouldn't have been a bad thing.
Oh, I would have marked out. Like, but to see the lights go out and then The pop that was so loud that you couldn't even hear his music. All you saw was American Nightmare up on the big screen.
Or if you were watching on TV, all you saw was a gigantic augmented reality neck tattoo floating.
I saw it. I dug the way they did that with the pieces coming in and forming. Like it was a really good use of their augmented reality. I hate that tattoo. I love the logo.
He got the neck tattoo touched up for the debut.
He definitely got both of his tattoos touched up. They were so much darker than they were the last time we saw him. That was one of the first things me and Amanda said when we saw him up on the big screen. I was like, that tattoo looks so much darker.
That's because the conspiracy is true that his neck tattoo is fake and he applies it before every appearance.
And it looked bigger. Like almost like he got the old one covered up with a new one of the exact same thing.
Which I wouldn't be surprised. Let's be honest.
Honestly, it's probably just a theory that, that he had it covered up with a bigger version, but like that's just what it looked like. And maybe when you're in the WWE ring, everything looks bigger. I don't know. But it definitely looked almost brand new as far as tattoos go. The pop inside that building, the roof blew off. There was one rival to that pop, and that was Austin's pop. Which, yeah, duh.
Yeah. It's one of those things like this is what makes WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble so special. Like
shout out to Shawnee Caulfield joining us.
What's up, Big Shawnee Cool? It's one of those things to where, this is what makes live wrestling better than anything else, because and we've talked about it, like it doesn't really matter who it is. Like a surprise is a surprise.
I am tearing up thinking about it.
Thinking about Big Show surprise appearance at Raw, like, dude, like I was the same way.
So, the roof blows off. Pop so loud in the building you could not hear the music. You could faintly hear the music enough to know that he came out to Kingdom, that it was the exact same character. And, we have hated on Cody Rhodes. I felt he had gotten stale, but I think that was a reason, a belief that he had gotten to a point in AEW where he had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Beyond
we've talked about it,
the limitations that he had.
Yeah. We've talked about that before. Like, when he first announced if he lost, he'd never challenge for the world title. It's like, okay, at some point, unless you just stay here for a while, at some point you're going to rise up and you can't surpass that cap.
Right.
You can't challenge every new guy who debuts and have a TNT title match with him.
Right.
It's one of those things. I think I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. I think more exciting than Cody debuting himself is Cody opening the door for other big things like that. Because we've, for the longest time, you would sign to WWE and you would get a name change.
Right.
And then a couple of guys, like I think Samoa Joe was the first guy to get to keep his name in the modern era.
Him and AJ.
Yeah, him and AJ get to keep their names. You don't get to keep your music. You don't get to keep much else. Rarely do you get to keep your gimmick. And so Cody getting to do this, it makes it feel like a bigger deal.
It opened the door wide open, and apparently it was part of all of his contract negotiations.
Hey, and good thing NXT has been revamped because Cody wasn't signed to NXT.
Right.
And he got to go straight to the main roster. So, props to him. Jake, I'm just going to be transparent. I've got 2 dogs I got to take out real fast.
I'll vamp.
But will you talk about what it meant for you to get to see that moment, because you got to see a lot of those once in a lifetime moments. Like I talk about me getting to see Edge at the Rumble,
I've got my
seeing Edge
moments
come
now.
out. Talk about what was it like for you to see that moment, to see one of your favorites debut. And I'll be right back. In fact, I'm gonna spotlight you.
So, you know, doing this, it was surreal. It was surreal to see a guy like that you just you go into the building and you don't even expect to actually be in the building. Like at that point, I was like, they've worked us. It's going to be Shane McMahon that's coming out. And because that's what we've been trained to be, is expect the worst possible outcome of what you want, and that's what's going to happen. And so to see those lights go out, and you hear wrestling has more than one royal family. I'm getting chills thinking about it. It's undescribable, the feelings that went through that stadium. You can just watch and experience and see it again, and it got me. It got me so much. It's why you're a wrestling fan. You're a wrestling fan for those moments, to experience those moments. I'm at a loss for words to even talk about it, because it is now a moment that I have that I'll never be able to take away. That a guy that was told that he wasn't good enough, he went out and proved that he was good enough. He won the world title. He went over to AEW and started a revolution. And, you know, I got tired of him. I got tired of the same old spiel. And beyond having the same gimmick, the character looks like it's going to change a little bit and change for the good. But I fully expected that if he returned, Vince was going to send him back to, you know, one of his former gimmicks, something that he had done previously, you know, maybe as Dashing Rhodes again, or something to that effect. But it wasn't. It was different, and it was perfect. That's what it was. It was perfect. You don't get to experience those moments every time you go to the wrestling ring. And yet I got to experience that, and I got to experience Stone Cold Steve Austin. I've never seen Stone Cold live. I've barely seen Cody live. So to have those special moments with two of your favorites, it's like Landon had with Edge. Edge is his all-time favorite. One of the reasons he loves wrestling. And he has that moment with them. You all know Stone Cold Steve Austin was the reason I started watching wrestling. I saw Stone Cold on TV, and I was able to create that piece that brought me into wrestling. And I got to see both him and Cody Rhodes in the same night wrestle a match. So I was just telling everybody, Landon, that, you know, it's just indescribable how that makes you feel. It's the reason we go to wrestling.
Like, it's legitimately surreal, like larger than life. I'll never forget watching Edge come out of retirement, and it's like I hear the music, I see the gigantic Titantron that says Edge. I see the smoke. Does not compute in my mind that it's a real thing. Because it's like, I shouldn't be allowed to see stuff that's cool. Like,
I mean, there was that moment whenever Cody's music hit that I still thought maybe in the back of my mind that they were working us.
that it was really going to be Veer Mahan.
Oh, Veer.
I will say this: the presentation that they did, as someone who was not there live, as somebody who was watching the stream, regardless of what Cody did in AEW, regardless of what Cody did in WWE, they made him look like a star, and that is so crucial and so important. You know, he didn't start in NXT, and you know, he gets to make his debut running through the crowd. He didn't get to do his debut of, you know, how many guys in NXT, they come out as a surprise tag team partner and walk out slowly on the stage. Like, he got the full presentation.
Right.
And so the people who were like, okay, Cody's kind of a big deal because he's getting this huge grand entrance. And to people who, like, kids, people who maybe they weren't watching and or don't watch AEW and don't know who Cody is, like, now they're like, okay, this guy kind of seems like a star. I think I'm going to tune in and see what happens with him.
I believe he can win the WWE title.
Yeah. Would you, in his previous run, would you have ever thought that?
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
And he couldn't win a world title in AEW. So it's like, you know, now it's like, okay, like, when's the last time there was someone even in WWE that it's like, I genuinely think they could be world champion? Like, it doesn't feel like, oh, like, I want the title, like, I want to fight for it. It's like, oh, like, this guy legit thinks he should be champion. And I believe it when he says it. It doesn't sound like.
And I believe he
you know,
will be.
And it's like, you know, we haven't ever seen anything like this. Cody claims he's not going to, you know, use scripted promos. We'll see what I'll say this, even, you know, the way he looked on Raw in his promo, very, very different than everyone else in WWE's promo.
Yeah.
The way that he doesn't just focus on hard cam, and maybe that changed. Maybe, you know, he'll get some pushback for it, or maybe, you know, he's gonna,
well, damn it, I like it.
open the doors. You know, if he doesn't get to do the Seth Rollins / Triple H, every week of Raw is going to kick off with a 20-minute promo. Or if you're watching SmackDown, you know, you get to see Becky open with a 20-minute promo. But all that to say, it's one of those things to where it's like, okay, like, I'm genuinely, like, as someone who, like, has seen Cody from teaming with Bob Holly and being an absolute nobody to getting to return and get to have that level of a presentation at WrestleMania nonetheless. Like, okay, like, you say you want to be WWE champion. You say you deserve to be the first Rhodes to get that honor. Okay. Do it. Prove it. And there would be nothing greater for him to, you know, he's convinced Vince and WWE to invest this much money into him. There is nothing greater than him proving not only was he worth that investment, but worth more than that investment.
Exactly. And that's how he came across Saturday. We need to get on just because, you know, we're spending a lot of time on night one, and there's still a whole nother night to talk about. And there's an even bigger moment to talk about. So we're going to gloss over match number 6 of the night because it was the worst match of the night. I don't know if that's how it came across on TV, but sorry, Tad, the Charlotte Ronda Rousey match was horrible. It was so bad.
I'll say this, you know, it's one of those. It should have been a quick match.
Yeah. It shouldn't have had
Because
18 minutes.
yeah, because here's the bad thing about WrestleMania. You have so much trying to be crammed into one night. Now, 2 nights, not every match needs to go this long. Like for the longest time, the main event of WrestleMania would be anywhere from 28 to 45 minutes, if not longer.
Right.
And not every match needs that. Not every match is worthy. I've like genuinely, this should have been, I'd say it'd be okay if it was a 5-minute match of Ronda just doing all these different submissions and Charlotte is just fighting the entire time.
Trying to get the submission, and then Charlotte cheats like she did to win.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be like, okay, this is Ronda and Charlotte's moment to put women's wrestling on the map. Like it,
especially when it had already been done one match earlier.
Yeah, and the moments that they're sandwiched in between, you can't. It's almost like WrestleMania 18. You have Rock versus Hogan, and arguably the biggest WrestleMania match of all time. And then you have to sit through an insufferable 30-minute Triple H Chris Jericho match after, which would have been great on any other pay-per-view. But after that, it's like, man, like, can we wrap this up so I can go home and talk about Rock Hogan?
Especially when everyone is just waiting for what's coming on after.
Exactly.
So,
Jake, what happened after?
We had a KO show and then we went home.
Yeah.
We had a talk segment for the main event. I can't even joke about it.
Like for me at this moment, because we knew something was going to happen.
We knew it was going to be more than just a stunner.
Yeah. And here's the beauty about Stone Cold, at least at WrestleMania. He always, always, always delivers at WrestleMania. Like whether
I would raise you one further and I would say he always delivers.
The only one I would disagree with is the 316 day during the COVID era where he gets stunned by Becky, because that would like, if anything, that killed Stone Cold's stardom.
I loved it though, because I loved him pandering to the no crowd.
That part was good, but then whenever it's like, hey, let's have the greatest star of all time get stunned by Becky Lynch.
See, that's not his fault. Stone Cold still delivered.
He said yes to it, but he redeemed himself in literally a way nobody ever expected.
Listen, Stone Cold has always put over the people that need to be put over. And at that moment, Becky was as white hot could be. And he put her over.
And I will never forgive him until he appeared on the KO show. Stone Cold, you are forgiven. If anything, he should have stunned Becky Lynch, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We are here to talk about something, Jake, we never thought we would see. Stone Cold has always made it clear that he was done.
He's done.
Would he have liked to have gone back? Yes, but he's a man of his word. And, he's not going to be the pro wrestler that comes out of retirement. And Jake, what happened when KO was in the ring and invited Stone Cold Steve Austin out?
You got the loudest pop I think I've ever experienced in my life, number one. I'm losing my breath thinking about it. And you got Stone Cold coming down to the ring, doing everything that he normally does, ready to raise hell, looked like $1 million. But let's face it, Stone Cold, I don't think I've ever seen him not look like $1 million.
He's he legitimately, up until The Rock in the last 10 years or so, like legitimately might be the only legend that has stayed in good shape. Because he, like, whenever The Rock left in 2004, like, got in weird, like, Hollywood shape. And then he was like, screw it, I'm just going to get as in the best shape of my life.
He
Like
got in
Stone
Tooth
Cold,
Fairy shape.
yeah, like Stone Cold literally always looks like he can go. And like the only way you know that he is aged since leaving in 2003 is if you zoom in on his goatee and it's just a little bit lighter than it used to be. That is
That's
the
not as
only
dark as it
difference.
used to be.
Yeah.
But so he comes down to the ring and KO. We all know. We all know KO. Yeah, I tricked you, Steve. I didn't invite you down here to talk. I invited you here for a no holds barred match. When I tell you the roof blew off the place, the roof blew off the place. I don't think it came across as well on TV, but whenever everyone realized we are getting ready to see Stone Cold's final match, tears. I mean, dude. And then you see, he asked the crowd, if y'all want to see me open up a can on Kevin Owens, give us a hell yeah. Hell yeah.
And you know what everybody said? No. We
And
want women's wrestling. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
one more hour of Charlotte Ronda.
Yeah, yeah. We want to see Sammy Guevara.
So, he makes the comment about his first match being in Dallas. And then he goes, and my final match could be in Dallas. That's when we all knew it was about to go down. And we had 13 minutes and 55 seconds of them fighting all over the place. It was not a 5-star classic.
And it didn't need to be.
But it didn't need to be.
Because we talked about this
Stone
earlier.
Cold opening up a can.
Exactly. We talked about this earlier. When you see Stone Cold, you don't want to see ring general, ringmaster Stone Cold. Can Stone Cold work? Yes. You don't want to see Stone Cold work.
You want to see Stone Cold.
Exactly. It's like people weren't buying tickets to Raw in the Attitude Era because of how great Stone Cold's Irish whips were and how great he was at doing reversals and getting people inside headlocks. People went because they wanted to see Stone Cold do the stuff they wish they could do without going to jail.
They wanted to see Stone Cold drink beer, raise hell, and kick the crap out of their boss. That is what you want to see Stone Cold do. You want to see Stone Cold whoop the hell out of someone, stomp a mud hole, walk it dry, and then drink some beer.
And the way he did that at WrestleMania was it was just impeccable. I mean, literally, like, I think it would have harmed the impact. The impact of the night would have been nowhere near as good had Stone Cold come out in trunks. And as cool as it would have been to see the vest, if him and KO would have just had a regular match, it would have been nowhere near as impactful because we, like you said, Jake, we saw Stone Cold take Kevin Owens all over AT&T Stadium.
We saw Kevin Owens live out his dream is what we did.
Yeah.
He was a Stone Cold Steve Austin fan. He has said it before. There's a reason why he uses the stunner.
Yeah.
We got to see Stone Cold come out exactly how we thought he would in his jean shorts with his Austin 316 shirt and some knee braces and some boots. And he was ready to whoop some ass. And that's what he did. And I now know how you feel when you saw Edge come out of retirement.
Yeah. Like it was legitimately a dream moment because it's like there's no way Stone Cold's actually going to wrestle.
Everyone in that building can always say they saw Stone Cold Steve Austin's last match.
Yeah, which is insane. And now that we know Stone Cold can go, I believe that's his last match. I would be hard pressed to see that be the last physical thing Stone Cold does Because as someone watching on TV, there was just a genuine look on his face during the entire match, and it's like, man, he probably hasn't had that much fun in
In a
20
long time.
years. And he even posted, Jerry Lawler posted a picture of him and Stone Cold together, and Stone Cold replied, and he said, "Now I know why Jerry Lawler still wrestles. Wrestling is so much fun."
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things to where it's like, that translates so well. Like, he's believable at what he does, but you can tell he's having a great time, and that is contagious. And I mean, seeing Stone Cold take a suplex on the concrete,
Right.
seeing Stone Cold give a suplex on the stage, like seeing him take a beating. And, we're not here to critique. At the beginning, it is a little slow, but as soon as KO made some contact, I mean, it was like the rattlesnake tail just started shaking, all cylinders firing. Like, it was contagious. Like, hey, like, I won't be mad if he makes blood money. Like, hire a bunch of Saudi Arabians and have Stone Cold overthrow the Saudi Arabian kingdom
There you go.
in his jeans. I'd watch that. I'd tune in for that. It's one of those things to where they could not have done this more perfect unless it was Stone Cold winning the world title, but we'll talk about that another day.
And they kept it going the next night. And I knew that they were going to have something huge to top that. I knew that there was going to have to be something huge the next night to top that.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go through this pretty quick because not everything deserves 30 minutes, like we said.
Yeah. And going into night 2, so full disclosure, I found an urn. I went to my local pallbearer, and he was able to summon the spirit of one Triple J Jimmy Jackson. And Triple J Jimmy Jackson's spirit and I did watch night 2 of WrestleMania together. Just throwing that out there.
Yes, you did. And man, it's just, you knew they were going to start out hot. They start out with Triple H officially retiring, which was fantastic. I mean, leaving the boots in the ring.
It was a good way to open the show too.
The pop that he got is great. Nobody expected to see Triple H at that show. And so he will be used that way, I'm sure. But, he will be used the Hogan way from here on out when they need a pop.
Yeah.
And it was a great pop. Teared up a little bit watching him put his boots in the ring. And this is coming from a guy that has never been a huge Triple H fan. But I understand the effect that he had on the wrestling injury in industry. So, first match of the night, we have the triple threat tag team match. Really good match, really good hot match to start the night. RK Bro defends the title. Really thought we were going to see the split of RK Bro at Mania, but that is yet to be seen. Apparently, they really enjoy working together, and they're over. They're very over.
Randy, if you guys haven't checked out Randy Orton's interview on the Pat McAfee show, it's incredible because he talks about how he's just genuinely having more fun at this point in his career than he's ever had before.
Randy. So yeah, I really thought that they were going to pull the titles off of them, give them to the Street Profits. That's how I felt going into the night. But I love it. I love RK Bro. They're great. They're great together.
They're money.
Who would have ever thought? Who would have ever thought? Not me.
I will say, if you watch it back, the freaking augmented reality, you've got a golden viper and then you've got a Green Viper with a bro snapback on, and literally the entire entrance, they're just going back and forth at each other like that.
What's with the doves?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not a fan of it, but I am a fan of RK Bro.
So Bobby Lashley defeats Omos. It was exactly what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah. You know, it did what it was supposed to do. You got two big meaty men slapping each other.
And Bobby needed a win.
Yeah. And it's not like, oh, well, Omos is pathetic now. It's like, no, like Lashley came back triumphantly super fast from injury. And now Omos has some personal business with Lashley. So it did what it was supposed to do.
One of my favorite matches of the night. Johnny Knoxville defeats Sami Zayn by pinfall. How great was it to see nearly the whole Jackass crew out there? Wee Man,
Pontius,
Party Boy, and all over the place. You had some of the new blood from Jackass there.
Like it was so great. Like once again, it did what it was supposed to do.
It was as much fun as you would think it was going to be.
If people were wanting to see El Generico's brother put on a wrestling clinic of crazy powerbomb kickouts and brain busters and, you know, bridging suplexes and dragon sleepers and all this is not the thing. Like we said this earlier at the top of the show, like we wanted to see Johnny Knoxville do what Johnny Knoxville does. And it was incredible. Like what a performance by Sami Zayn, but more importantly, like Johnny Knoxville.
Oh yeah. Everybody involved in it. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. Watch it again. It was the perfect blend of comedy and wrestling. Like it just it worked on so many levels.
I'm afraid this will be the last of Johnny Knoxville we see, but I really, really hope it's not.
Yeah. I mean, now everybody knows he can go. Now they know he can do this stuff.
Like how is Johnny Knoxville not 24/7 champion?
Right. How's Wee Man not 24/7 champion?
Dude, hey, the irresistible force meets the immovable object.
We didn't even talk about the next generation wrestler that debuted. Mae Young and Mark Henry's son debuted last night or Sunday night.
He had his WrestleMania moment.
Sami Zayn for him. It was great. That whole match popped me the giant mousetrap, even though it malfunctioned.
It was still great.
It was great. It was just on brand and it was perfect. Women's tag team match. It was what I expected.
It's a, you know, tag matches at WrestleMania usually aren't the best thing.
When I saw that the only special entrance in the entire match was for Naomi and Sasha, I knew they were going over, which is fine. Sasha had never won at WrestleMania,
which is crazy with how predominantly she's been featured.
It's so hard to believe, but she's never won at WrestleMania, and now she's
this is going to make me throw up saying this. She's the modern Shawn Michaels. She has all the WrestleMania appearances, but no wins.
She very rarely doesn't deliver, though. I know that you're not a big fan of her. I'm not the biggest fan of her either, but she delivers.
She does her job. And it's nice that it is genuinely refreshing that she's not in the main event picture because, you know, like look at Naomi. The joke has always been, well, Naomi shows up for Mania and the Rumble and that's it. And now you have a reason for Naomi to be on weekly TV. So,
and Naomi's good.
For that.
Naomi's so good. This one was probably my biggest letdown of the night. This next one, Edge versus AJ Styles.
I was super, super stoked for this match. I think what happened before and after the match was the most important.
Right.
To me, it felt like they were sent out there to fill the card, to fill time.
It did not need to be 24 minutes.
Yeah. It's one of those things to where had it been like it was built really, really good. But obviously now we see the creative direction that this is going to. The creative direction doesn't match, or the match didn't match up with what it was supposed to be. Like what originally started as a build of like, hey, this is, you know, a legendary wrestler in Edge versus arguably the one of the greatest wrestlers of all time in ring wise is AJ. But the match didn't feel that way. It felt like, hey, it's not that big of a deal.
I'm going to say something that might be controversial here. I think AJ Styles is the biggest disappointment in WrestleMania history.
How so?
Out of all of his matches that he has had, he's only ever really delivered once. And that was with Shane McMahon.
Yeah. Well, you look at his WrestleMania programs.
He's given us dream match after dream match and not delivered.
Yeah. And I don't think it's his fault.
I don't think it's his fault either, but
I fully believe it's a creative thing, but it is a sad thing because it's like, oh, like, hey, here's big match time. But it's always, well, the creative doesn't match up with, it being a dream match. But it's like they always hype it up as a dream match before Mania. But then literally, you go watch every AJ Styles WrestleMania match except for the Boneyard, and the hype leading up to the match is one direction, and then the match is another direction, and then the post match is setting up the next angle.
Right.
And it's like, well, if you were just going to do that, why didn't you just run with that instead of acting like we were going to do a dream match and then not do a dream match?
Well, and it's like, the Boneyard match was really good. I'm not counting it as one of his matches.
No.
I'm counting it as like it was what it was. It was a brawl cinematic match, and it was a great for what it was.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about his legit in-ring matches where
AJ
versus Edge is a dream matchup and it under delivers. Shinsuke versus Nakamura 2, huge match, under delivers because of bad creative.
Yeah. And it's one of those things. It's like, if creative knew that's the direction they were going, then that's how the match should have been built.
Right.
Instead of, hey, you have you have Brett versus Shawn competing in the first ever Iron Man match for the WWF title. But instead of it being this great war, like what if the entire match was Razor Ramon and Diesel interfering the entire match, and then afterwards it sets up, Hart Foundation versus Shawn. It's like you just wasted a dream match.
It should have been what Rhodes and Seth were to night 1. That's what it should have been of night 2. And it under-delivered. And like I said, I don't think it is AJ's fault. But every time we have these dream matches with him, it's not there.
Yeah.
It's and this is coming from one of the biggest AJ marks there is.
It's like you get to day of, and it's like his match producer is like, okay, here's what we're gonna do, and it's like, then why did we advertise it? Because I loved Edge's entrance.
Oh,
I was so pumped, and I loved what happened at the end of the match. What I wish would have happened is if Edge just would have had that cool entrance, and then they have just a banger of a match, no Edge acting super gimmicky with his new gimmick, nothing like that. Just a straight like, okay, Edge has heard for the last 10 years that AJ Styles was the greatest wrestler never to go to WWE. Now you're getting this dream match, and then have this new gimmick stuff come in at the end.
That's what I agree.
That's what should have happened. It didn't. It's unfortunate that we didn't get this. I hope, I hope it leads to AJ and Finn versus Edge and Damian Priest. I would love that. If they're
I
going with a new brood, I would love that. It's just unfortunate it came at the expense of a dream match.
I love where it's going, and I agree. It should have been a situation where neither person was the heel, neither person was the face going into the match. It should have been the Edge, the rated R superstar that we all know and love, versus the face that runs the place, the phenomenal one, AJ Styles, and you let them just go at it for 24 minutes how they would normally go at it.
Yeah. No,
Don't don't
that
build to the gimmick, but at the end, Damian Priest shows up
yeah.
and you build that character off of that.
I mean, even at the very least, like I wouldn't have hated it if they do something where, it's this dream match and then Edge goes for the spear, catches nothing, runs into the ring post. You have AJ go take advantage. He goes to the outside. He gets up for the phenomenal forearm. He's on the rope. You see someone grab his foot and yank him off. Have that be the end of the match. I would be okay with that instead of we're just going to kind of just have a filler match until it's time to reveal our next step.
And that's what it felt like. Like I almost got up and went to the bathroom. And that made me sad. Like,
yeah.
So we'll not harp on it anymore. It was my biggest disappointment of the weekend. Match 6, Sheamus and Ridge versus the New Day.
Crazy how short it was, but
minute 40.
Yeah. But I'm also not mad because I had zero interest in this. I love that, New Day, they dressed as Big
great.
E.
That was great.
That was great. But also like I'm just not interested. It's going to be hard to get me to care about a modern day WWE tag team match.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard.
And it's one of those things, not everyone can have a meaningful spot at Mania. But, it is what it is. It's just unfortunate it happened at that moment.
So the moment that over-delivered, probably the most out of the whole weekend, Pat McAfee defeats Austin Theory. This match was more fun than it had any idea of being.
Yeah.
I can't stand Austin Theory, which is what everyone wants. He looks like he belongs on the Duke lacrosse team. Like,
dude, he's a
creep.
What's his face from Blue Mountain State?
Thad Castle.
Yeah, he's Thad Castle. He's all Austin Theory is a more jacked version of early Sammy Guevara before he randomly became a babyface.
So Pat McAfee is so talented in the ring. I know they hyped it up that he's been training since 2017 because that's what he wanted to do after he was done playing football. But like, the guy's got it all. The fact that he was able to call most of the night behind the desk and then go out and wrestle, like.
And what's great, I didn't realize this until they started showing the video packages. He trained with Rip Rogers.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that explains why Pat's so great. With what Pat did, War Games with Adam Cole was incredible. Like,
he continues to impress.
Yeah. And this is something the spirit of Triple J Jimmy Jackson said. What stands out the most with all these celebrities is Pat McAfee has the respect for the history and for the business.
Right.
It's not just a celebrity there to promote. It's not just like, oh, like, hey, yeah, that sounds fun. It's like, hey, like, I really respect what these people do. I understand like the craft it is to not just do wrestling moves, but to put together a good wrestling match with emotions involved and drama. And he did that because, like you said, Jake, this match had absolutely no right being as entertaining
Right.
as it ended up being.
And the the proof is there that he went out and got trained and didn't just go to the performance center. Like, I guarantee you Logan Paul went to the performance center.
Oh,
I
easily.
guarantee you they took Knoxville to the performance center. And there's nothing wrong with that. But this guy went out and got trained on his own dime. Hats off to him. I love
Yeah.
him. I love Pat McAfee. He's entertaining as hell. And I just want to see more of him.
Oh, absolutely. And, the match was great. He gets the win. And Mr. McMahon wasn't happy with Pat McAfee getting the win, was he, Jake?
He was not. And that led to one of the moments of the night. This whole 20-minute span was one of the best parts of the whole night. Probably the best part of the whole night for me. Mr. McMahon took the dress shirt off, and Mr. McMahon had them ring the bell with Pat McAfee. So now Pat McAfee has been involved with one WrestleMania and is now 1-1.
Which is insane.
And he beat a 24-year-old kid and lost to a 76-year-old man.
Hey, in his defense, he got a Dallas Cowboys football punted into his rib cage.
Oh my gosh.
I will say this to everyone who complains and argues about WWE relies too heavily on their old stars and it's not fair for them to steal the spotlight from younger talent. There's a reason Mr. McMahon at 76 years old taking his shirt off got one of the loudest reactions of the weekend. There's
The
a
second we
reason.
heard his music.
Yeah. Like here's the, we talk about all the time, like rising stars don't sell. Established stars sell. That's, you have the equity there, you get the reaction.
Right.
So it's like, either 77,000 plus were just a bunch of marks who, will gobble up everything WWE feeds them, or it's like, this is either so awesome or this is so absurd, I can't help but love it.
And that's what it is it was both. I mean, just see McMahon. We saw Stone Cold wrestle his final match the night before and possibly McMahon wrestle his final match the next night.
Yeah.
And so you go through all that, and then you get Stone Cold coming out again to the loudest pop of the night. And he does his normal drink the beer, and Vince McMahon takes the worst stunner of all time, which Vince was never good at taking the stunner ever.
You watch, and never once has Vince had a good looking stunner. Like half of them, he takes it and he falls like forward over Stone Cold.
And then, it's just which Austin Theory took one of the best sells of a stunner ever.
Like it's tied with Scott Hall for greatest stunner sell of all time.
It's right up there with Scott Hall, with Kevin Owens.
Like the way that it's just like, woo.
And now Pat McAfee. Pat took a incredible stunner.
And the rumor is, well, take it for what you will. Pat said on his show today that he was not expecting to take the stunner.
Yeah.
That is not, that was not
about that match that he wasn't privy to.
But, kudos to him for like, okay, it's my time. Like I've dreamt my whole life of taking a stunner and now I get to.
Think of how many he's probably taken on that trampoline that they kept showing in his video package.
Yeah. Well, I will say, going back to the last time Mania was in Dallas, Stone Cold was talking to the guys backstage after Mania, and he was like, how did you guys, like Rusev, the New Day, Wade Barrett, like Del Rio, Sheamus, all those guys. He's like, how'd you get, like, I've never given you guys the stunner before, like, and no one else uses the stunner. How did you guys know to sell it so well? And they're like, well, the performance center, we do stunner drills where someone will go plug their phone into the aux cord and play your theme song. And then who's ever in the ring, the next person coming in is going to give them a stunner, bump out of the ring, and then the next person in line will come in, stun the next person.
Right.
And it's just like that, like, what a cool, like, that shows you the lasting impact if you have future people of the business in their training classes, and it's like, hey, you're probably never going to get to take the stunner, but be prepared because that's a career defining moment.
Right. And you'll always be remembered by how you took it.
Yeah. Like, I hope at Vince McMahon's shoot funeral, it will be in the will that Steve Austin is to stun at least one member of the McMahon family at the actual funeral, not the WWE televised funeral, like the actual private funeral.
Well, you'll have to stun my grandkids because they're going to be the only ones left alive.
You'll have to stun Austin Theory once again.
After I've passed my consciousness over to him.
Like, this was just such a great moment. Like, McMahon Austin will always sell.
Right. And it was perfect. It should have been the ending.
Yeah. Because how do you? We're going to talk about the main event. I mean, how do you top that? You can't. The range of emotion from like silliness to excitement to like, this is incredible. Like, you could not top the heights that were reached.
The main event was something I was really looking forward to because we've never seen this at Mania with the roles reversed. And I'm sorry, guys, it was more of the same. It was more of what we've seen already at WrestleMania. It's more of what we've seen for the past year. And I was so excited to see this version of Brock. So excited. The country ass kicker. Like, I was so excited to see that person at the head of the table.
Even his entrance, like, he was so... I was surprised neither one of them had like an elaborate entrance.
I am too.
I told the spirit of Triple J Jimmy Jackson that I wish like you would just hear like and there would just be like this random herd of cattle on the stage, and then Cowboy Brock would ride a horse, splitting the cattle in half and ride down to the ring, and then you'd have some other cowboys lead the cattle off the stage. But
you know, we got everything that we've seen before from these two guys. It was not anything that was advertised. They advertised that it was going to be a bloody mess, that he was out for blood, and that, you know, it was going to be the greatest match of all time. It was not. But at least now we're not going to be fooled again, are we? We're not going to be fooled into thinking that this one's going to be different.
No, I will say
people enjoyed it.
Yeah. It's, you know, I mean, the only way they could have done it better is if they would have just gone like full, like pedal to the metal. Like, you've got to have blood. You've got to have them like, don't have any F5s, don't have any Superman punches, like just brutal beat down the entire time, because they just competed with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and they didn't stand a chance going into it. And it's just weird because, you know, like even the entrance, they seemed like, okay, like Brock is like, have you ever seen Brock have that much fun during an entrance and introducing himself?
Yeah, exactly. And that was the best part of the match.
Like, have the Usos get involved, like have it. Brock goes for the F5 and All the
Let it
Usos are
be
pulling them
Suplex
off.
City all over the place. Let it be that year that John Cena that he demolished through John Cena at SummerSlam with 20 suplexes, but Roman just needed one.
Mm-hmm.
He just needed a spear and a Superman punch, and that's it.
It is interesting. There's speculation um, that it could have been changed on the fly due to a potential Roman injury. Roman did appear on Raw this last night. Didn't appear to be injured. There's some pictures where his arm looks a little gnarly. Looks like his tricep is a little
There was
swollen.
a moment that he definitely popped his shoulder back in.
And so
You see it happen on screen.
it's one of those things to where, depending on the extent of the injury, because when Finn won the Universal title, his shoulder went out of place, and then he was out for 6 months.
Right.
So you got to wonder, did that was like, oh, hey, like we've got to cut this match short. Roman's hurt. Obviously this isn't ideal. I don't know. Only time will tell. Because if that's the case, it makes sense, and it's very unfortunate that that happened. But if it's like, if Roman's fine and he's good to go, then it's like, okay, well,
It's
where do we go from here?
it's obvious that they're building up to someone beating Roman that wasn't Brock. And maybe that's Cody. Maybe that's what we're going to.
Yeah, it could be possible. It wasn't as an impressive win as it should have been. Like, I'm not mad that the match was short. I would have been cool with it if the match started and like Brock charges in and immediately catches a spear and he gets up and he eats a suit. Like, if it would have just been Roman just absolutely squashing Brock, that wouldn't have been a bad thing. It is good that Roman got the win, and he's had, in my opinion, way too many WrestleMania wins, but this is the first one that feels,
Earned.
Him winning Mania last year against Edge and Daniel Bryan, it was like, okay, like this is the start of something new. This is what, and I'll say this till the day I die, this is what should have happened when Roman defeated Undertaker at Mania.
Yeah.
He should have stepped up as, the big dog. He should have become the tribal chief.
He should have been the head of the table at that point.
I think Roman is money. I don't think he's, in this current iteration, I don't think he's overstayed his welcome yet.
No, not at all.
And like I'm cool if he has the title for a long time, because he doesn't need to drop either title now. And it's going to be interesting if they keep both, or if now that they're unified, if they're going to switch to just a single belt. But Roman does not need to lose any championship until there is a legitimate baby face that is as equally over as he is.
It's obvious that they're not moving off of this train, and that with all the speculation that it's going to be Rock next year, it's obvious that they're going to keep building this iteration up to face the Rock and possibly lose to the Rock, or the Rock passes off the torch.
Yeah. Which I don't think is a bad thing, because it's not necessarily, Roman Reigns is, too dominant. It's not that he's overwhelming, but imagine how much of a star the person that beats Roman for the title will become.
Huge.
Like that's, you put them in that main event spot with him and with Cena and with Edge and with Randy, like whoever that person is. I'll say this, like, I'd be cool if it's Braun Breaker. Give it a year, get to Mania next year, give us Roman Rock. Roman is still champion. He's at 800 days now. He has defeated The Rock. Give Braun Breaker that year to just continue to get more and more over as a babyface, and then just collide and give us a once in a lifetime match.
I think it has. I think you go with this. You get that moment. The Rock comes back. He loses to Roman. Meanwhile, Braun has run through the entire roster. He's won the Money in the Bank. He's waiting. He's waiting for his opportunity. Night after WrestleMania, he cashes in.
Yeah.
And becomes the biggest babyface in the world.
Like it's there. I hope for the future WWE's sake, I hope it is somebody. I think it would be great if, I think it could launch Cody to that level. I think Cody can get there another way, but it's one of those things like Rey Mysterio. You never took him as a main eventer, never, ever, ever, until he won the Rumble, until he won the title at Mania. And then it's like, okay, yeah, like if Ray's in the world title picture, it makes sense. Before that, it's like, no, like he's a tag champ at best.
Right.
And so I selfishly, for the future of wrestling, I hope that's what happens, but time will tell. And Jake, I'm super excited. This was a banger of a WrestleMania. Was it a 10 out of 10? No, but it was pretty dang close.
It was.
I'm just happy. Like, I genuinely enjoyed it. I genuinely had fun. I didn't left being like, well, I hope they do better next time. It was like, okay, like, awesome. Like, you guys over delivered, in my opinion, and I really hope you guys do it again.
I do too. I'm very happy with it. I am super excited about how Mania went, and let's see what they build upon on this. With that,
the landscape has changed.
With that, this was a little bit different of an episode than normal. We're going to be back to our normal format next week. I have confirmed that we have the return of Roger Stokes next week. We're going to get to hear Roger's take on everything. With Cody and everything, his absolute favorite wrestler in the world, Cody, and probably going to have some different opinions than I did, but that's okay.
It is nice that Roger's favorite wrestler, Cody, was there because his second favorite, Goldberg, was surprisingly not there.
But with that, thank you everybody for joining us. It was a great night. It was a great weekend. What a way to cap off this weekend than in your house. I'm so excited for what's coming next.
If you guys haven't watched Mania, go watch it now. If you did watch it, go back and rewatch. It's incredible. But Jake, if it's okay with you, I'd like to take us home because honestly, I think I'm going to rewatch Kevin Owens versus Stone Cold. So, for Mr. Wrestling, for
El Gigante,
from my younger brother Ezekiel, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Brothers in Kayfabe and WrestleMania, baby. It was just too sweet
for life.